officially started here in just about a minute because we have to start with the live stream, but welcome everyone. Nice to see you. It feels like fall this morning. It's like, I think we're ready to be done with 90 degrees. Cool it off a little bit. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Boulder. We are going to be doing a set song service today, which starts with chanting, where we sing affirmative words to call that affirmation into our beings. And we take this time to just leave the world outside these doors or wherever we're joining from. You live streamers, just close the door and let this be a time for you to commit to an hour of being in the presence of this greater potential, this greater love we call God, Spirit, Allah, whatever word helps you feel connected to the source of all life. So we chant, and singing, they say, is to pray twice, so we encourage you to sing with us. But if you just want to sit and close your eyes and just let the words move in and through you, you're welcome to do that as well. So Norm and I will be the call, and then Larry will be the response, and you'll sing along with him.
Beloved. Good morning, everyone. It should be an indicator to you that when you see my candle this short, that our tithes are not up to snuff. So I received a phone call this week from someone who obviously tuned into one of the Wednesday night services and really wasn't fully apprised of what we actually embrace in unity, and said, how can you talk about peace when the world is in such chaos? And I explained that whenever I speak about peace, I always define it as mystical peace, an inner state of mind, not contingent upon the circumstances of the world. And so you could actually, and you've heard me say this before, you can measure your progress on the spiritual journey toward enlightenment by the measure of peace that you're capable of sustaining in your everyday life. Because we are in fact karma yogis. So we don't leave the world for an ashram, a monastery, a convent. We actually carry on our lives in the world. The real changes that take place, we're not isolating ourselves from the conditions and circumstances of life. We are changing our level of consciousness. So that's what I will be talking about today. And I will be talking about it, as I always attempt to, in the most direct and simple way. Can we have this first PowerPoint, please? Most of you are aware of this prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The reason why we have a great deal of anxiety and stress today is because so many people are attempting to change the things they cannot change. In their mind, anyway, they want something to be different. And a lot of it has to do with the coronavirus pandemic. There are people that are saying, why can't everybody get aboard with the fact that we have to collectively subdue this terrible pathogen? And that all these states that are attempting to open up and allowing people to go about without masks are simply expanding the virus when we should be doing something to tamp it down. And then it comes down to an issue of masks or no masks, and then we have this loggerhead of people going on and on and on. But in the mind, there is a resistance to the conditions and circumstances that cannot be changed from a particular limited awareness, like from the one we are born into and raised in. From the ego-centered consciousness, there is no way we can make something happen, because there are greater egos involved in creating the laws we live by. So we are literally attempting to change what isn't going to change, not from our level, and then resisting it connotes a certain amount of insanity. We want to get beyond that. What is the real underlying problem? The one thing that in our unity experience we understand, and it is this. And I tried to make this as simple as it can be said. People who experience a great deal of anxiety and stress perceive the body with a mind of its own. Instead of knowing the mind is one within all bodies, beyond all meaningless ego projections. I'll share that with you again. People perceive the body with a mind of its own, instead of knowing the mind is one within all bodies, beyond all meaningless ego projections. And you can discover meaningless ego projections whenever you are open to be aware that you are embracing negative thoughts and negative emotions. Certainly, you may come upon things on your own path that you're capable of changing. And so you might have a certain response to what's on your path. But I strongly suggest, unless it is directly on your path, you will need to contemplate whether or not you have the prowess to change it. Because negative emotions and negative thoughts merely feed, listen to this, they feed the error you so want to change. You are empowering the error you so want to change. And you're going to find out as I go on with this talk why that happens to be so. The wisdom to know this truth that I'm sharing today helps us avoid the futile attempts of making the physical life the important and only objective, and the mind as the means to achieve all physical objectives. So you see, when you get down to the basic truth of spiritual insight, what we are dealing with is we are withdrawing from our strong allegiance to a limited definition of life. We want to live an enlightened life, but it cannot be lived from the initial state of ego-centered, body-oriented consciousness. It cannot be lived from that level of awareness. And so what we are in the process of doing is aligning ourselves with what we refer to as the omnipresent intelligence that is our Creator, that brings about a transformation in our vision because it changes our outlook, because it changes our in-look. So that's what we are about doing, and we don't do it by the volition of our own egos. We do it by glimpses of understanding, little beams of light coming to the mind, and the mind acknowledging its larger purpose, its grander scope. That's what we do on the spiritual journey. But let me share this with you because this goes without any equivocation. This is A Course in Miracles. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? You can read this in the old text, page 447, and I didn't put in there the new text. Do you want freedom of the body or of the mind? For both you cannot have. Which do you value? Which is your goal? For one you see as means, the other end. And one must serve the other and lead to its predominance, increasing its importance by diminishing its own. Means serve the end, and as the end is reached, the value of the means decreases, eclipsed entirely when they are recognized as functionless. No one but yearns for freedom and tries to find it, yet he will seek for it where he believes it can be found. He will believe it possible of mind or body, and he will make the other serve his choice as means to find it. Where freedom of the body has been chosen, the mind is used as means whose value lies in its ability to contrive ways to achieve the body's freedom. Yet freedom of the body has no meaning, and so the mind is dedicated to serve illusions. This is a situation so contradictory and so impossible that anyone who chooses this has no idea of what is valuable. Can we take this back again? Thank you. Do you want freedom of the body or of the mind? For both you cannot have. Which do you value? Which is your goal? For one you see as means and the other end. And one must serve the other and lead to its predominance, increasing its importance by diminishing its own. Therein you have the teachings that will never go away. That the Master said, my words will never go away. Heaven and earth could go away, but my words will never go away. And what he is talking about there is the necessity of personal transformation found in the surrender of the illusionary concept of the body life. And one must serve the other and lead to its predominance, increasing its importance by diminishing its own. Means serve the end, and as the end is reached, the value of the means decreases, eclipsed entirely when they are recognized as functionless. No one but yearns for freedom and tries to find it, yet he will seek for it where he believes it is and can be found. He will believe it possible of mind or body, and he will make the other serve his choice as means to find it. Where freedom of the body has been chosen, the mind is used as a means whose value lies in its ability to contrive ways to achieve the body's freedom. Yet freedom of the body has no meaning, and so the mind is dedicated to serve illusions. This is a situation so contradictory and so impossible that anyone who chooses this has no idea of what is valuable. This concept does not negate the pursuit of physical goals in life, especially on that younger level of experience. It is necessary for us to pursue that which appears to us to be the way to find fulfillment and peace. And so the universe has given us permission. It is the permission of the divine mind of life that we can reflect upon the things we pursue. We can reflect upon the thoughts we think, and we can find them limited along the way and adjust as we go. And so that is why there is no judgment. There is no judgment against anything that anyone pursues in his or her experience. The judgment comes from the limitations that visit us in our limited perspective. That's our teacher is our suffering. Our teacher is our pain, our frustration, our disappointment, which is calling us to awaken more, to not follow with that investment that you follow these particular goals with. It's saying to you, lighten up, give a little more time to allowing your awareness to rest in the consciousness of the divine. So we have the Course in Miracles, which is emphatic in its statement. This is not an isolated statement from a book that took 7 years to be written. It is an ongoing idea that A Course in Miracles never relinquishes throughout. We should remember, though, that the physical life, even on the spiritual journey, in-depth spiritual journey, is not eclipsed. It simply finds its rightful place as the servant of divine consciousness, giving that personal awareness the indications it needs to be appropriate in every moment, so that you find yourself in the kingdom of God and you begin to recognize it in everything around you, because you have entered into an allegiance with the one ongoing mind of life. Why will such acceptance of oneness and the relinquishment of ego-centered consciousness prevail? It must prevail. There are not two lifestyles, there are not two forms. There is only one power, one presence in all the universe, and it is God. And God is what we can't avoid. We can, for a while, ignore, but it cannot be avoided forever, because you cannot avoid the will of God is that we should, in fact, enter such a state of love that no one is excluded, no one is rejected, no one is feared, no one is demeaned, no one. The recognition comes with love that every single physical seeming form is struggling toward the light of its alliance with a living present God. I'm going to share with you a video from Alan Watts that speaks to the ego, about the ego.
Now, I've got to be very clear to you what I mean by an ego. An ego is not the same thing as a particular living organism. From my philosophy, the particular living organism, which is inseparable from a particular environment, that is to say, from the universe as centered here and now, is something real. It isn't a thing. I call it a feature of the universe. But what we call our ego is something abstract, which is to say, it has the same order and kind of reality as an hour, or an inch, or a pound, or a line of longitude. It is for purposes of discussion. It is for convenience. In other words, it is a social convention that we have what is called an ego. But the fallacy that all of us make is that we treat it as if it were a physical organ, as if it were real in that sense, when in fact it is composed, on the one hand, of our image of ourselves, that is, our idea of ourselves, as when we say to somebody, you must improve your image. Now, this image of ourselves is obviously not ourselves, any more than an idea of a tree is a tree, any more than you can get wet in the word water. And to go on with, our image of ourselves is extremely inaccurate and incomplete. Would that some God the gifted give us to see ourselves as others see us. We don't. So my image of me is not at all your image of me. And my image of me is extremely incomplete in that it does not include any information to speak of about the functioning of my nervous system, my circulation, my metabolism, my subtle relationships with the entire surrounding human and non-human universe. So the image I have of myself is a caricature. It is arrived at through mainly my interaction with other people who tell me who I am in various ways, either directly or indirectly, And I play about with what their picture is of me, and they play something back to me, so that we set up this conception. And this started very, very early in life. And I was told, you see, and you were told, that we must have a consistent image. You must be you. You have to find your identity in terms of image. And this is an awful red herring. A lot of the...
As we discover on the path of life, living from the ego-oriented consciousness, ultimately, if we're awake in the living, leads us to conditions of isolation and fear, leads us to limited judgments and condemnation, and it leads us to frustration and disappointment. But we have to recognize that. And in recognizing that, we can then start to move toward releasing that limited definition of self and gain, as soon as we release it, by the way, that which is at the core of our being, this divine self or true nature or soul consciousness, actually moves to replace it. So it is not I, in a sense, by the volition of my will, but it is by listening to the very important word on the spiritual journey. It is by my allowing this more refined consciousness to rise and inform and guide and heal the life I thought was mine alone. Just in what I said about this level of consciousness brings us to another point. Of Course in Miracles makes so clearly that everyone we perceive as operating in some limited way toward us or toward life in general, with some unjust attitude or something, injustice taking place. Course in Miracles calls us to define it as a call for the love that that particular individual is denying to himself or herself. And therefore, we do not respond in kind, but have practiced so well that we allow, listen to that word as it takes you into the heart of God, and that we allow, and with that comes an insight as to how to go forward in that relationship. So I'm going to conclude this with this particular, I'm missing a big part of this. I don't know why people don't give me 3-hour talks, but
You can just keep doing it.
okay, thank you. I just want to, let me share this overall truth from A Course in Miracles. You can read this in the old text, page 426, in the new edition, 457. There is another vision and another voice in which your freedom lies, awaiting your choice. And if you place your faith in them, you will perceive another self in you. This other self sees miracles as natural. They are simple, they are as simple and as natural to it as breathing to the body. They are the obvious responses to calls for help, the only one it makes. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego because it does not understand how separate minds can influence each other. Nor could they do so but minds cannot be separate. This other self is perfectly aware of this, and thus it recognizes that miracles do not affect another's mind, only its own. There is no other. You do not realize the whole extent to which the idea of separation has interfered with reason. Reason lies in the other self you have cut off from your awareness. I'm not going to read that again because it's more important for us to share the sacredness of the gift of life. You see how perfect it is, that it has allowed us to be born and grow and experience, and along the way make the adjustments ourselves. There is no overriding, overruling power that makes us conform to its personal will or the will. It allows us to acknowledge what will bring happiness, what will bring more peace, what will truly bring healing. Instead of all of this stuff that takes place in the outer-directed, illusion-driven world of praying to some distant God to intercede in our life functions in order to change those things we don't want to be there. When it is our calling to be awake in our living and then make those changes ourselves by releasing the strong illusionary ideas we hold to be important in separation and conflict, an attempt to gain control and change that which we cannot change. Wisdom tells us we can change our minds. So we know now the things that we resist and have a difficult problem with are holding us in limitation, whereas we can actually change that. And so once again, I recommend to live fully as a karma yogi is to acknowledge when negative thoughts and emotions are rising in our experience, and then to pause, not to react, because the ego-centered consciousness always reacts to conditions and circumstances. It no longer wants to be there. So if you pause, you're allowing God to speak, to guide, to heal, and to restore truth and love. We're going to practice the presence now as we listen to this beautiful singing bowl. And then we will take some time to be silent in our meditation. If you don't have a particular meditation technique, you may want to use this mantra. There is only one everything. Only one. In you, in me, in everything we see, there is only one waiting for me. Only one. Only God. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space, let us go forth with a greater determination to be more keenly awake in living, in order to recognize any type of negative thought or emotion that can be dissolved. So as we practice this, we will draw closer to that peace that surpasses the understanding of the world. Mystical peace of mind that heals. And for this opportunity, in every moment, let us allow that gratitude to flow forth. And to this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And for those of you that are here in this auditorium, you can make a physical offering if you so decide. We have a basket in the lobby for you to place your physical offering in that. Those of you that are watching this online, we ask you to bring to mind some gift that you can make toward Unity of Boulder, that we can continue to obviously share this ministry with as many people as possible. And we are doing that. We are doing everything we can on the mundane level to expand the outreach of the truth we share. So if you're willing, please take some time to donate. You can donate in these particular fashions. You can see them. So now, as we take this offering to mind, to heart, let's bless it with this offering statement. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. I'm going to share that again, and you may want to share it with me or just bring it more fully to mind. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give.